Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Identity Project. Today, have a very special guest. Our newest coach, Coach Lizzie, is on today. Straight flexing for those of you that are watching the video. For those of you that are listening, you didn't get to see that. But,
Nope.
anyways, what's going on, Lizzie? How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Awesome.
well. I must admit, as I was telling you, definitely a little tired this morning. Josiah had a rough night last night, I think, with the storm and everything else, and so yeah, he's actually crying right now.
There it is. Okay.
But anyways, all good, all good. I'm excited to chat and be able to kind of learn more about you, share
Yeah.
more of your story. I've known you now for quite some time, but I don't think we've ever really dove too far into your story, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, let's take it back. Where were you born at, Lizzie?
Where was I born at? So I was born in Dallas. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I went off to school for a couple of years, but yeah, born and raised about, I'd say 5 miles away from the current zip code that I even live in now. My parents are from Argentina. So I grew up in a very multicultural family because Argentinians are very mixed European. So a little bit of Irish, a little bit of Italian, a little bit of it all. So I have a big brother who's 10 years older than me, and he played sports, did all kinds of stuff. So it was just the four of us. It was great though, because my brother was so much older than me. So I grew up almost like an only child, but then I did have that big brother to bail me out if I ever like, hey, so I'm going to be spending the night here. Am I over at your place? But I've been pretty much here. I've been playing sports my whole life, moving as much as I can. But yeah, I'm a Texan girl. Definitely, I'm a Texan girl for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. So you said an older brother that's 10 years
Mhm.
older than you.
Yeah.
So were you, I mean, I'm curious because I was an only child till I was 8, and
Yeah.
then my parents had twins and then another one. Um, but were they trying during that time, or was that just were you just like a surprise later on in
I was
life, or?
absolutely a surprise. And so I'd like to say that we were kind of both surprise and timings because they had my brother in their early 20s. They had me in their early 30s. So at the time, I don't think my parents were fully prepared because they had just came to the United States. They were just trying to establish themselves, and then boom, they had a kid. They stayed for a few years, did what they could, and they went back to Argentina for a couple. Kind of actually was telling you earlier is it was bad there, and they knew that they would rather be immigrants here and hustle than go back to something that was comfortable there that was not going to work out for them. So they came here, and a couple years later I was born. So we're a solid 10 years apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that were going on in Argentina during that time?
So right around that time, they were still in a little bit of a war with Britain. It's called the Battle of Falkland Islands, and it's these islands that are down south. So my parents lived in Mendoza, which is south of Argentina, and economy was crap. You can start seeing it now. I mean, the decline, even right now, is really a leftover of what was happening then. Things like food not being accessible, jobs not being accessible, transportation not being there, and then people just starting to get lazy. So, it's kind of that mentality of, I wasn't given anything. And so as the generations start going by, you're like, well, my parents didn't get anything. So then I'm the one who's not going to get anything. And then that, I think it just continues to breed. So even like my cousins now, most of my cousins, they tried to stay. They tried to stay with friends and family there. But they realized that it's just even their mentality of trying to be better is different than what they see. So I have cousins that are coming here and they're tow truck drivers. One guy, he actually quit that job and he's an Uber driver, and he almost makes more than I do just driving Uber 8 hours a day. But it's a whole different mentality, and it started 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But it's just been continuously seeded into people just not feeling like they have an opportunity, and they just start trying.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah. And so here they came. My parents didn't speak any English. They tried a little bit of community college, and they just couldn't do it just because the language. So they found jobs, and they were at their companies for nearly 30 years. At the base, like my dad worked in a factory when he first got here. Within a couple years, the supervisor was like, hey, you're kind of smart. Like, let's send you to some accounting certifications. By the time he finished his tenure at International Paper, he was the accountant coordinator for this region. And yeah, and my mom, same thing. She worked for a government funded clinic. She was the office manager. So she was the highest ranked in that office by the time she was done. But they basically found a job. They stayed and they hustled for 30 years in their careers.
Wow.
So yeah, so
That's
my
awesome.
work ethic definitely comes from them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing. You know, we were talking about this a little bit before, but I mean, I just can't imagine, you know, you hear the stories like that. I mean, there's so many people that have done it. You know, I think even like listen to Gary Vaynerchuk and kind of
Yeah.
his whole story and whatnot. But, you know, it's crazy to me because I mean, I mean, both of us are like blessed to be born in America. Like I cannot imagine having to, you know, because you've heard Stephanie's story on, you know, Coach
Mhm.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. I mean, I just have so much respect for people that do that and make that jump because it's like, I mean, put yourself, like if I put myself in that situation, you know, maybe if I was there, it'd be different, you know, in another country, it'd be different, but God, I mean, how scary, like to leave
Yeah.
your country that you were born in and like just leave everything behind, start with absolutely nothing and, you know, like have to basically rebuild your life. Like that's just, I mean, when you really think about that, like that is just like, to me, one of the, like the most inspiring things in the world, especially now becoming like a dad and wanting to make it better
Yep.
for, you know, for my kids, my family. So yeah, I kind of got off on a tangent, but that's
Now
amazing.
I even think about sometimes when I want to travel, like I love traveling, but going to a country where I don't know the language, even for a week, like kind of scares me a little bit. So for someone to go and commit their however long they're deciding to commit to, it's crazy to me. Even I have a cousin that just got here. He's 45 years old, doesn't know the language at all. He's trying, and so him and my wife Aubrey, there, she practices Spanish, she practices English, all broken up. They sound like 5-year-olds, but they're trying. And I think at the end of the day, if you're coming here and you're trying, that's to me what is it? Because you can come here to this country and hide in a like a little population, like you know we call Little Mexico or Chinatown or something, and you can submerge yourself with your community and people and not branch out and take advantage of the things that are here. But the people that do end up branching out, that's where I know for me, I'm like, if you're going to try, I'm going to try with you. So I tend to have a little empathy for people that are really putting themselves out there that way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So talk to me a little bit about kind of, you know, you and your early years there. So elementary school, like what what was Lizzie like in elementary school, if you even remember that far back?
I do, fortunately, unfortunately. So one thing is I'm so glad that I would probably say up until my early 20s, we didn't have cell phones with cameras. So all of the stuff that I did, the good, the bad, the ugly, is not documented. So huzzah, I can pretty much make up whatever I want now. But no, me as a kid, I was, you know, so I'm 36, about to be 37 in May. And as a kid, we had sports that weren't boy and girl teams, where there was just boy teams. So as a 4 or 5-year-old, I played on a boys soccer team until I was probably about 11 or 12, right around junior high. That's when they actually had girls teams. But my whole first half, I played with boys. You know, on the playground, I played with boys. I was the first girl typically picked in dodgeball, probably one of the first one ahead of boys too.
Nice.
But I played sports. That's what I did. I was on the field. I was doing something with movement. So I was tough. I can definitely say I was tough. And then when it comes to inside the classroom, on my report card, I would probably say every 6 weeks there was something that said, Lizzie's great, but she's a little talkative. So that's good because I'm still like that. But yeah, apparently I was the distracting kid in school that always cut up. I wouldn't say class clown, but I was always kind of a smart butt that where I would throw something out there in between. But I know teachers like me because I was witty. So while they wanted to discipline me, I also know that I did have a little sweet spot for some teachers that they didn't really get too super mad at me. But yeah, so I played tons of sports. Like I said, I was talkative. I had tons of friends group. In fact, I look back on my friends now, and I always had groups. I never had like one individual person. And I always had a spectrum of people. Like I had, you know, a white friend, a black friend, a Hispanic friend, kids that lived in the projects because we had projects around my neighborhood. And then I was also in kind of a middle class neighborhood to where we had projects, but we had like the middle upper class. And I was in some smart classes growing up. So, I did get a feel of everybody, which I loved because it allowed me to never be pigeonholed with people. I had to learn how to talk with parents of one set of friends. And then I had to learn to talk with parents of another set of friends. And so I love that. I love that I never did something to where, because the sports I played were not school sports. They were recreational sports. So it was never like, I was never in a clique at school, because it was these people, these like sporty kids played soccer. These 40 kids played football. These 40 kids played softball. So we were all sporty kids, but we never played the same sports. So that was kind of cool. And then when I got to closer to junior high, I didn't play the sports that my school offered. And so I got put into some smarter classes, which I did okay in. It wasn't, I would say that I would have rather been in regular classes and had more of a relationship than have been stressed out like I was through most of kind of my upper schooling career, because I learned very quickly that school was just not going to be the path that was going to make me the most successful as an adult. So I just kind of bided my time. By the time I got to high school, I'm like, Lizzie, just make it through. Like, that's all you got to do is just make it through the graduation. So, my high school was a little bit more of a struggle. It wasn't as sunshines and rainbows as my first half, but I learned a lot about myself in high school that helped me a lot in my adult life.
Yeah. As I think a lot of us do, right?
Yeah. Just to start. It was all just to start in high school.
So did you said through like kind of the elementary school days, obviously you're playing a lot of sports, and I don't know about you, but a lot of the times we play all these sports and then we play, a few less in middle school, and then maybe, pick one or two or whatever in high school. But did you, in those high school years, like what, did you have like a sport that you were like, most passionate about, or?
Yeah. So I played soccer. That's the one thing that when someone asks me, I'm like, I'm a soccer player. I've been playing since about 4. And that was the one thing that I played my whole life. And even I played for about a year in college. So soccer is my sport. That's the one that I went down to. I played a little bit of softball growing up because we had a spectrum of girls that played when I was younger. And in the fall season, we played soccer. And in the summer season, we all played softball. And so the whole same team actually transitioned to all the same sports. We just stayed as a team. So that was kind of fun to do. And then when I got to junior high, didn't like to run. I am not a hand-eye coordinated person, so no volleyball. So I played a little bit of basketball as much as I could. And then by the time I got to high school, I was also in band. And so I chose band and soccer were my 2 main activities I did.
What did you play in band?
Saxophone, man. Saxophone.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I did not know.
I was only in band in middle school for 1 year, but I did play saxophone, and I'm not going to brag here, but I actually picked it up pretty well. I think
there you go.
I had to ditch it because I was the kid that cared about what everybody else thought about me all the time. And I'm like, I don't want to be a band nerd. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, totally band nerd. So I played all 6 years. I played from 6th grade all the way through senior year. Like so much so that I was a section leader. I auditioned to be a drum major. Like I was a band.
Wow.
But what made me cool is I still play sports. And so I was a band nerd, but I had soccer in the spring season. And then I was also in jazz band. So in marching season, I played alto, so the smaller saxophone, just because it was easier to carry around. And then when I got to jazz, I went to a tenor saxophone. So I would say out of like the 8 classes that I was registered in my senior year, 3 of them were band, because I was also in like a steady period in band.
Wow.
But no, I was a solid band nerd, but I loved it because one thing that people don't realize is the physicality in marching band. I was really good at. And so even as a freshman at the very end of marching season or at the very end of marching camp, we have a march off. And so you, with no instruments, you get in position, upper body straight. And really it's like your lower half is detached and you just swivel and move and backpedal and do all kinds of stuff. And while the drum major's like yelling these commands, the final 5 left was me and 4 seniors. Just because I was quick reacting, I could move my body, but that was my favorite part of band was the physicality of being in marching, because then the whole other half was learning how to breathe and like blow through your horn and hit the skybox with it. So that actually helped me, not realizing it then, but now as a trainer, teaching people how to breathe. Because I can breathe in my diaphragm. I can, what we call the rotunda. You can open the rotunda and really like let the air out. And for me, it helps with my workouts because it allows me to recover. And it helps me teach people that when you're breathing up in your chest, you can't really breathe well. And because I've been breathing in my belly for years, that's something that I didn't realize was a skill until later on, where it was all banned because you had to fill your cavity to blow your horn. So I learned actually quite a bit there in band.
Wow. I didn't know you were in band for that long. You know, it's funny thinking about marching, because every single time that I'm, basically holding Josiah, especially at night when I'm like trying to get him to like fall asleep. Oh my God. It's like the most uncomfortable thing in the world, because I'm like walking and like my shoulders are like rounded forward just the slightest bit. And so I'm thinking about, it made me think of marching right now. I'm like, if I had to like stay in that upright position the whole entire time, I'm sure you get used to it, but
yeah, even something like it was my wife's birthday over the weekend, and I was walking back from the bar with 2 beers in my hand, and they'd filled them up pretty high.
Double
I did yeah. And then I did the heel toe march all the way to the table. I look super nerdy, I'm sure, but my whole upper half wasn't moving, and I was just heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. And then I didn't drip anything. In fact, I'm like, I didn't drip an effing drop on the way here. And that was just all from my band days.
Oh man. It's a band. There you go.
Skills. Yeah.
So what did you, you said you mentioned you played soccer there in college for some time. I'm always so interested to hear about the transition from high school to college for people, because I know for me, I didn't feel like I had a lot of direction in terms of, there's this thing called college, like you're supposed to go to it in order to get a good job and all this, whatever.
Right.
But did you know like what you wanted to go to school for? Were you just like, I want to go play soccer, like I'm going to make this happen, I don't really care what I study, I don't know what I'm going to study?
No, I fell into everything. I'd probably say until I was maybe like 25, it was just stuff that I fell into. So whether it's I positioned myself for
Hey Lizzie, I don't know what
Can you hear me now?
It's like making it's like all like buzzy and fuzzy. I don't know.
Nothing changed. Can you hear me now?
It's still doing it. That's so weird.
Doing it. Yeah, I didn't change anything on my end. You are unmuted.
That's so weird. Say something again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It's just like
there's like a feedback.
It's like
yeah.
That's so weird.
Now. Yeah, that's good over here.
Try to let me see. I'm gonna pull you out of here and then click that link and come back in. Let's see if it fixes it.
Okay, cool. You hear it now?
Oh wait, no, we're good.
Okay, cool. So I unplugged mine and did mine too. So maybe that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. We're good.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll edit that. But yeah, okay. We're good.
All right. Are you back to recording? Or have you been?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So no, so everything pretty much since the age of 25, all up until then, was stuff that I fell into. So my brother had gone to college. He got his master's degree in biomechanics or kinesiology with an emphasis in biomechanics. So he's the smart one. But school was really good for him. That's something he did well. And I tried. So I went to Abilene Christian for a year. And I went there because I had a group of friends that went there. So I was active in my church through my senior year. And I went to community college for the first semester. And then I wanted to try the college experience. So I went, and then I got on the team. So I played for about a year there.
Sorry, it's doing it again. Yeah.
Interesting.
As soon as you like moved, that's when it started doing it again.
Okay, let me see if I kind of sit still. As I say, yeah, I don't feel any chords. Is it still on? Still?
Yeah, try to maybe unplug it again and plug it back in. That worked last time.
Do you hear it now?
Perfect. That's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so let's see. So okay, I'll stay still. But okay, so college.
The 25 or up until 25, basically.
So up until 25, I just kind of fell into everything. My college career was at Abilene Christian to get you started, and made it onto the team there, and it was okay. Being in a small town, especially being from Dallas, the small town, just I wasn't jiving with so well. So I made it for about a year, and then I ended up coming back home. All throughout high school, I had a job at Chili's. So Chili's Bar and Grill. My brother was in restaurants. He was a bartender. He was a server. So I got the job there. Same thing. I just fell into it. The manager knew my brother and was like, okay, yeah, you're kind of hired. So at 16, I was a hostess. At 17, I ran to go. At 18, I became a server. At 19, I became a bartender, and I just kind of did almost a little bit of jack of all trades. So when I came back from college, I went back to community college, and I kept taking courses just to get all my basics. And I was really good at waiting tables. I was awesome, in fact. I became a trainer for the region for trainers. So I trained trainers on how to be trainers. And then I trained bartenders, because then Chili's did the whole like flair. They flipped bottles. They did the whole show thing. And so I'd actually travel around to Chili's and train bartenders on how to have flair when bartending behind the bar. And then ended up moving up the ranks there. So I actually became a key employee, so a shift lead there. And then right around that time, I got my basics at the community college that I was around, and still didn't know what to do. I just got it in business because I had all of these classes, and business associates was the thing that I could kind of filter it all in just to get it done. And then right around the time, I was like, okay, well, I don't know what else I want to do. I'm doing okay at this restaurant thing. So let me keep progressing my career up in restaurants. So that was a time where I decided to leave Chili's, because there was no way to get promoted within Dallas, because Chili's is from Dallas. So if you want to go to district level, GM level, there's just no way. You have to leave then to come back. So I went to a company that had maybe 10 locations in DFW, which is called Potbelly Sandwich Shop. Awesome. Love it. Still love the sandwiches now. So I started with them when I was around 21. No, about 20, 21. And then I was with them for about a year, and I got promoted to a general manager. And so I was a GM around 21, 22, and I ran locations for, I'd say, about 5 years. And with them, I was a training leader. So when they would either hire externals to be a GM or hire district managers, they would come through my location first, and I would train them all their basics. Same thing. If we had a training team that actually went around and open locations, I would train the training team to go open the location. So that was kind of when I realized that training was something that I loved. I was always some sort of a lead position. I was the captain of the soccer team. I was a section leader in the marching band, or in my section. I was the head trainer. I always did something like that. So I knew that teaching people was something that I really enjoyed. And my brother around this time was a trainer. So he worked at 24 Hour Fitness. He worked at a location about 20 minutes from where I lived. And I would go train with him about 2 or 3 days a week, and loved it. There was a couple things, he didn't like having to sell. He didn't like all that stuff, but he loved working with people. And I'm like, yeah, this seems like a pretty cool gig. So what I decided to do was go back to school to study nutrition. And the reason why I did that was because I talked about food all day long. And what I started realizing is a lot of the conversations that I enjoyed the most, other than training my employees, were talking to people about how to modify the menu or the item to work for them. Whether it's something like they didn't like pico de gallo, so we took it off, or it's, hey, I'm trying to watch what I eat. What can I do? Like, yeah, well, on the sandwich, we can take out the bread. We can do a little less cheese. You don't have to do all the cheese. We can take out the oil. We can take out the mayo. We can add some mustard. We can load it up with veggies. And then I started getting really excited about those conversations. And I thought, okay, there's something here that I need to explore a little bit more. And then right around that time in my own personal journey, I decided to become a vegetarian. So I had my sister-in-law, my brother's wife. She was a pescatarian at the time. So for me, I identify that as you eat no meat with feet. Everything else is fair game. And so no beef, no chicken, no pork, but fish, seafood, anything, no meat with feet, everything else was fair game. And so she was tiny, she was thin. I'm like, yeah, I want to look like that. That's cool. And so I ended up becoming a pescatarian for about 2 years. And that's what helped me learn more about food. Like, how can I get more protein in? How can I feel satiated? How can I find these supplemental things to make sure that I'm still feeling like I'm eating something hearty and not feeling like I'm missing out on something. Another reason why I decided to do that was it kept me in check in my own personal journey, because I was in restaurants. So I made food all day long. That means I did not want to make food when I went home. So I was doing a lot of fast food. I was picking up to go in a lot of other restaurants. I had, I was dating someone at the time that also worked at Chili's. And so if it wasn't Potbelly, it was Chili's for dinner. And going to that pescatarian style forced me to not be able to go through drive-thrus because I wasn't going to get a fish sandwich from a drive-through. And so that kept me in check quite a bit, and it kept my quality of food a little higher. So, I'd go to restaurants and I'd be forced to get more of a scallop, get something leaner like a shrimp. And so that was the main reason why I did it, is to keep me in check and give me some parameters so that I would start to control my decisions that I made when I was not, working.
Yeah. As you kind of go through your story there and you hear like just the different, not even just jobs and roles, throughout life, but even looking into like the childhood and your roles as like a leader and different things. And it's like, it's the common characteristic. And I think, like I told you before, the number one reason why like I wanted to bring you on staff is like you love like helping people, like you love like coaching people. Now it could be coaching bartenders or coaching nutrition or whatever,
Right.
but it's like the act of coaching is it can be applied to anything. And a lot of the times, there's things that people are doing in various jobs and they call it, training them or whatever, but it's like coaching, right? Like it all boils down to the coaching process. So I just think it's cool as you kind of reflect back throughout life and you see, all of these different things that have basically kind of shaped you into who you are, but the consistency is in, wanting to help other people and, wanting to coach others as well. So I just think that's cool. I think it's cool to be able to reflect back in life and see that commonality.
Yeah, it's even great to look back and know now. When I was a manager, I had a handful of employees that some started with me at 16, some started with me in their later 20s, and all of them still now. So I'm talking almost 10 years later. Some of them will still call me for career advice. They'll still call me and say, "Hey, I'm putting you on my resume because I'm looking for a new job," or "Hey, I'm having a hard time with this." So there's something there where, I'm very humble and I don't like to brag, but when they come back to me and those conversations, like it makes me feel so great. I'm like, wow, I did something and I helped someone. And I know I was a pain in the ass to you then. I have one kid that I call him a kid because he was 17 when I first started working with him. I had gone to a brand new, or not a brand new Potbelly, but new to me. And I took over an existing location that was, the numbers were really good, but it was not running well. So I kind of went in there and I'm like, I want to fine tune you guys. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, but I just want to get you guys to kind of level up. And this kid was so used to being so good at what he did that he did not take feedback well. And he would get upset when I would correct him or I would get next to him. I'm like, all right, let's see how quick you can make a sandwich. And I'd get next to him and I'd crush him every time. And he'd get so mad, but it was like, I was trying to light that fire inside him. And I can't remember what our conversation was about one day, but he left pretty pissed at me. And he went home and talked to his mom and he kind of let it out. And his mom, after he finished, and she goes, "Are you done?" And he said, "Yes." And she goes, "You know that she's right, right?" It's like, so they kind of talked it out a little bit. And the very next day he came to work and he's like, "So I talked to my mom about you." And I'm like, "Oh goodness, where's this going?" And he goes, "Well, she wanted me to make sure that I apologize to you for being immature yesterday. And she's right. She said, you're right. And I recognize why you are right now." And so I'm like, awesome. All right, let's keep on going then. And this kid, he's the one who actually did my engagement photos. He did my wedding photos. I flew him out to Colorado. So this is, again, now almost 15 years later, he's almost 30. And so these relationships that I established with these kids or these mentees, that it really was just about initially like, yeah, I'm going to help you make a better sandwich. But what the conversations kept going back to was, if here's not where your forever is, that's totally fine. But my goal is to make you a better person so that later when your next employer says, holy crap, where did this kid come from? Where did Potbelly? Wow, they must do amazing. And I go,
Yeah.
so you're not a reflection of this company. You're a reflection of me entirely. So when you go off and you sprinkle your wisdom and your amazingness to everybody, like I want me to be there with you. And I fully believe that I've got a batch of these kids that even now, I say kids again, they're 30, but I know that there's a little piece of what I put into them, because at the end of it is, you can do a great squat. You can make a great sandwich. You can, make a really great tip on a table. But at the end of it, are you getting better like yourself throughout that process? Are you leveling up in some sort of way? Are you seeing the importance of being better? And that's ideally my goal with everybody that I come across, ideally.
Yeah, no, I think it's great perspective. And I think, as we kind of transition in this story into, kind of present day,
Yeah.
it's the conversation that you hear from so many people. Like, I mean, well, I'll kind of let you tell the story of like the group fitness setting, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard so many people, just make comments on everything from like the energy to the vibe to the connection to the relationships. I mean, you just said it 10 years later, right? But it's like, it's just cool. Like, I mean, these are the character traits that I feel like are essential in looking for great coaches, because it's not about a nutrition degree. It's not about any of this education. I mean, it is, but it's not, it's
Not
like,
about the
it's so
piece of
much,
paper.
yeah, it's so much more about like the human connection, and like you can be the smartest person in the world, but like if you can't be empathetic to people's situations in life, and if you can't get on a level with them that helps them to be able to overcome their struggles, and really just feel like they have somebody that is actually on their team that actually gives
Yeah.
a shit about them, like I think that's so much more of what's important in a coach is looking for that factor. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love that about you, but continue on with the story here.
So yeah, to segue into all this to say about fitness. So I decided to leave my restaurant career and go back to school, because I tried it again. I'm like, okay, I'm 30 or I'm 29. Maybe I'm more serious about this. Maybe school will just click more now that I'm older and can understand it. And so I went to study nutrition. I got a PT cert in the meantime, and I got a job at 24 Hour Fitness, where I met you. And so I went to school. Yeah, I went to school for about a year, and I did okay. I still struggled in my classes, though. There's something about chemistry that since I was in high school, just and so I tried a few times, actually. I even took the same teacher, same notes, same test, and I still could not pass the class. So I was like, this may not be the option for me. So I began to see things like precision nutrition and other options of how I can learn, and then start to just know that the things that I know. I may not have a piece of paper, but I know application. I know how to talk to people about things. And throughout my, I guess, beginning to learn how to train fitness, I realized that, like you said, that piece of paper doesn't really matter. Is, can my knowledge help people? Can I deliver in a way where someone's going to hear me? And I think that still goes back to just being a leader and being a manager and understanding how to relay your message to people, because you can have 5 different people and have the same message, and you may need to say it 5 different ways for each person to understand what you mean. And I think that my 10 years of being in restaurants and management is what allowed me to actually be a great trainer, because if I said it one way, they didn't get it. I'm like, say it this way. Didn't get it. Say it this way. Like, there it is. And so, yeah, so I started studying. I started taking cues from all the trainers around me. So I asked to sit down with trainers and like, teach me what you talk about with nutrition with your trainer. So, Brent was one of them. Marcus Coleman was another one. Candace, anybody I can find. I'm like, talk to me about what you know. And then I would watch trainers like you, and I'd watch them on the side. I'd watch them stretching. I'd watch them doing stuff. What are they doing with their clients? Why are they doing that with their clients? And then I would begin to learn about that process, and that refined my skill as a trainer. And then right around that same time, I started taking group classes, because in my own personal journey, I was like, okay, I need to start working out just a little bit more. I could lift weights. I had a really good technique that way, but I knew that I needed to bring some sort of a cardio, I guess, thing in my life, because I did not like to run. So I started taking Zumba classes. Hey, yeah. So I was taking Zumba, and I was hiding out in the back of the room. And then little by little, I'd probably say about 3 to 4 months later, I was confident enough to make my way up to the front corner of the room. And the instructor noticed me, and she was like, "Hey, you're actually really good. So, here's a CD. I want you to practice some of these songs. I want you to try to shifting towards the middle of the room, because I think you got something." And she didn't know I was a trainer in the building. So I started taking cues from her, and I gained the confidence to start taking classes at all times of day. So basically, I took class on a Friday night when no one was in the, like, trainers were gone, nobody was working, nobody saw me. And so I started finally taking classes in the prime times, and the group fitness manager noticed me and said, "Hey, you're a trainer, right? How would you like to get more clients? If you become a group fitness instructor, you're going to be in front of tons of people, and you're going to have an opportunity for them to get to know you." So I said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So whirlwind of a 9-month training, I learned basically 4 different formats, everything from Zumba, so dance fitness, to a barbell lifting class, which is called body pump, to a mixed martial arts class, because I did Kung Fu. I didn't even touch on that, but I did Kung Fu about 6 years when I was a kid. So I did mixed martial arts, which was like boxing and Muay Thai, and did a class like that. And then I did another class that was an athletic inspired. Imagine the jazzercise from the 80s amped up into 2015 with like solid techno music. That's what I taught. And I got really good at that. My classes had anywhere from like 45 to 75 people in them on average after about a month of teaching. And yes, that amped up my fitness business very quickly, because at the end of class, I would just say, if your hip or knee is bothering you, say after class with me, I'm going to show you a stretch before you get on out of here. And then that easily segued into a, "Hey, so how much is training?" I'm like, "Funny you should ask." So I did that. I did that for about 2 years, and did well. I loved it. I was on the go constantly. I taught about 6 classes a week, and I had clients all in between there. And right around that time, I say about 2 years into it, I got the opportunity. The job came up for the area group fitness manager at 24, in which they managed half of DFW. So that was about 20 locations. They managed the 7 locations in Austin, and any kind of other locations that needed some coverage. So with my management experience, with my fitness experience, I got the gig. So I began to travel quite a bit as a group fitness manager for 24. So that was an interesting journey. That was a moment that I went from teaching 6 classes a week that were classes that I was actually like teaching, like I was mirror imaging them. So I was moving with them, to behind a computer for about 60 hours a week, either that or traveling to my locations or traveling to my regions. So that took a toll on my fitness hard in the first, like, I'll probably like say 3 to 6 months. Yeah, that's a whole other
Yeah,
thing.
I can only imagine going from being as active as you were to that. I mean, it's very similar to me going from competing in CrossFit,
Yeah.
working out 3 or 4 hours a day, to basically sitting behind a computer all day long every day. But yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed my I always joke, I noticed my step count go from like 24,000 steps to about 4,000. So
Holy smokes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was
Uh,
different things, like my back was hurting from sitting on it, my this and my that. I'm like, this can't be it. And yeah, so that lasted, I'd probably say, another 2 years. And then I thought, nope, this is not it. I mean, I loved it. I had about 3,000 employees that I worked directly with. So all across, and same thing, that same skill of having to talk to individuals and having to find different ways on how to communicate helped. But I miss the connection of being in front of people. And I miss the connection in front of, and like, being with people that were new to even fitness, new to group classes, and showing them like, yeah, this is going to feel sucky halfway through class. I promise you, it's going to feel awful, but you're going to feel so much better that you came. You're going to feel so much better after a couple of times doing it. And then I didn't really have that satisfaction with employees. Like, I would hire new employees. I would get them as better instructors, and you could see light bulbs, and they were awesome, and they were crushing their classes, and they were filling up classes. But there was something that I was missing, that connection with people. So after a couple of years, I'm like, nope, let me go back to, I went back to training and back to full-time group fitness. And I've never looked back, and it was probably the best decision I made.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've done group settings with CrossFit. I've done one-on-one with personal training. Obviously, I do one-on-one now with nutrition coaching, and it's definitely one of those situations where you realize it's like with the one-on-one, I mean, you're never going to be able to really like reach as many people as maybe you want to reach, but like the level of like human connection,
Hmm.
and like the relationship, knowing somebody for 10 years, like those things are really mainly done, I feel like on that one-on-one, coaching basis. Like, I mean,
Right.
I think about like, working with clients and, getting testimonials and success stories. And like, I mean, having conversations on the phone with people and like seeing them face to face and over the phone. And like, I mean, there's people that we work with that, they literally break down in tears and they're like, you've literally changed my life. Like,
Yeah.
and for me, and I know, you as well, it's like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's like the oxygen for life, like that's the most fulfilling
100%.
thing in the world. So yeah, it's the same thing with me. It's like, I will always, like, no matter what, I will always coach. Um, I coach way less people now than I used to, but I will always coach people because
Hmm.
whether it's in kind of more of a mentorship role or whether it's with clients, like I love coaching. Like coaching, the act of coaching is, it's really something that actually empowers people and like, it's something that you can change somebody's life with. Like if you
Yep.
just let that sink in and resonate, it's like, that's like one of the most empowering things in the world.
Yeah, it's that light bulb that oh my gosh, the when either they gain the confidence that they were missing, or one thing is, while we have the one-on-one and we're only affecting one, but like my hope is that I create a little leader in them, that they begin to affect their family, their
Mm.
coworkers. For the longest time I would just say, be the one, like be the one that is different, be the one that chooses a salad when everyone chooses that burger. Be the one person in your family that you may have an overweight family and you say it's genetics, but be that one that shows them that it's not the case. And so while, yeah, definitely at times you're like, it's only that one person, but my hope is that that one person begins to then feel that own fire, and they want to, in their way, like help the people around them in their education that we teach them. They begin to say, yeah, you could probably do this instead of that, or this instead of that, or hey, let's go for a walk instead of watching this TV show tonight, or let's listen to this podcast while we're cooking some dinner. And then creating these like little mini leaders. And so I try to tell people, it's like, whether you are the leader of your family, whether you're the leader of a company or a small team at your work, like you can always be that, even if it's a silent leader, be that leader that shows people. So I guess I know that that's where my coaching kind of tries to drive people, is that I want people to be better, but I also want them to be that confident that they are like, watch this, like I'm going to do this. So yeah, so I love that.
Do you think that I mean, obviously you talked about getting work ethic from, your parents,
Mhm.
right? And obviously that makes total sense, but have you always been this like kid that's like, just had the motivation, that's driven, that's confident? Like, has there ever been times where maybe you struggled with some of those things?
I could definitely say that my lack of confidence was in my younger days. So, being a gay kid in the 90s was not super cool just yet. So, now I won't even say it's super accepted, but it's a way more accepted than it was before. So I was very closeted when I was in high school. Earlier, when I said my struggles, that was probably a lot of my struggles, was
Mm.
I wasn't really myself, and I was quiet. I was definitely a lot darker. In Grey's Anatomy, they use this term called the dark and twisties. I will definitely say I had the dark and twisties, and I still, there's always going to be a little bit of dark and twisty inside. So I think for me, when I do talk to people, I understand that darkness, and I understand how easy it is to fall back into it. And that's why I drive so hard to stay away from it and to find that light. So that was one. And I will say that I grew up while I did have a lot of mix of friends, so, from every spectrum of the ethnicity, I also was one of the only white or Hispanic kids. Again, I'm a white kid, but only one of the Hispanic kids and a lot of white kids around me. So while that wasn't ever really a big thing, that was always something in the back of my mind. Like, my parents have a thick accent because, again, they came from this country when they're older. I speak full Spanish, so I speak full Spanish. My cousins, when they would come to this country, they would start going to school with me, and I have a lot darker cousins. So friends would look and like, oh wow, they're really dark. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm Hispanic, and some people didn't realize, but in the back of my mind, that was always something where I'm a child of immigrants here to this country. I'm first generation born, and then I was never really the fittest. Even now, like, women compared to me and my age, they're like, man, you're tiny, but I don't feel that way. My mind sees me as someone like a powerhouse. In soccer, I was the girl that would like bulldoze into people because I was strong and I was powerful. So, I wasn't really ever confident with the way I even looked. When I went to go get my personal training certification, it was I went to Cooper Institute. So I actually got to sit down in a classroom and learn, which was very rare. A lot of people do like weekend certs or online certs. So I got to actually learn from instructors and teachers. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, I would look around at all these girls, and they were all girls that looked like they did yoga and they ran. I was probably the biggest girl there. And I'm telling you, I was maybe 8 pounds, 9 pounds more than what I am now. But the really cool thing, and this is where my confidence began, was in that training cert. We all got partnered up with groups of 4, and they were all the teacher put us with people that kind of look similar to us. So tall guys with tall guys, short girls with short girls. And then I was in the group of the muscular girls. And one girl that was in my group was Jamie Eason, who is a bodybuilder. She's on bodybuilding.com. She's actually one of their main female bodybuilders. And I did not know who she was at the time, but everybody kept on going and saying like, hey, I just wanted to say hi. People at lunchtime would go and take pictures with her, and I just didn't get it. But about 2 days later, I was put in a group with her, and I'm like, hey, so can I ask you something? Like, I'm kind of new to the fitness game. Why do people keep asking you about about you? And she's like, oh, I do a couple articles on bodybuilder.com. And then she said her name. I went and totally crept on her afterwards. And she was a major big deal. But the reason why I was put in a group with her is because I looked strong, and I was actually put with her. So that was probably the beginning of my, I don't need to look like a twig to be a trainer that people can look at and be like, damn. So that was actually the beginning of my confidence there. But it's something that I constantly work on. But it's a skill. Confidence is a skill. And that's something that I talk quite a bit with my classes, with individuals, that it's not something that you're just born with. You're not saying like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go, which I would love if that was the case, but you have to work at it all the time. You have to be confident in the decisions that you make. You have to do your research in those decisions. And even if you make a crappy decision, be okay with it. Learn from that and then move past that. Totally fine to do. But I know that being confident is a total skill that I still work at daily, but it is a skill that I have acquired throughout my years.
Yeah. So I want to definitely respect your time here. These podcasts go by so incredibly fast, I feel
sure.
But I did want to touch on real quick here before we kind of finish things out. So you, obviously we brought you on recently, and we're kind of going through the process of like the mentorship, and then really, actually, we got about a month here before we start ramping you up with clients. Well, actually, I guess we started with me. I'm the guinea pig. I'm the first client. But can you talk on a little bit, just kind of in terms of like the on-ramping process and just kind of like your experience thus far, kind of working with Stephanie, and then really just like what you're most excited about, for those that are listening here, so that they can sign up and start working with you here in about a month.
So I've been doing this onboarding, on-ramping for, I'll probably say about a month now. And it's been great. So I love the fact that, one, I have a couple different people to refer to on the team. So with you, it's the kind of the initial questionnaire. It's diving into some of the clients that you've had and really picking out some of the things that are the most important to begin to address. So in any kind of fitness journey, it can get really challenging because sometimes you walk in with certain sets of goals and expectations, but when you fill out the initial questionnaire that iCoach has, you start to see some of the other things that you're like, holy crap, like, no, I don't poop once a day. No, I don't get this adequate amount of sleep. No, I don't. And this, may not even be touching on the nutrition, but it is the whole lifestyle of what can we do? Because you could eat great and you can work out, but if all these other components are crap, then all of the work and efforts that you're putting in are going to be, like pointless kind of. So it's really understanding what are the things to address. So that's been great with you is every week we've been going through different sets of people. So it's singles, it's people that are married, it's people with children, it's old, it's young, it's people that have worked out or don't work out, or some that do work out, and then are just kind of shooting in the dark and just don't know where they're going. So that's been amazing. It's been amazing to go through that initial process because, in fitness, it's very clear, like you can put someone through an initial assessment, have some ideas of, okay, got to work on that squat, got to work on their posture, got to work on this. Okay, let's go. Let's get you a good workout. And this one, it's really kind of stopping and pulling back and really seeing the picture and seeing how can we begin to fine tune these things in a way to where it will last. Because if you do something for, let's say, a week or two and you're miserable doing it the entire time, you're going to quit after week 3 and 4, and that's not going to be sustainable. So how can we get you to start tweaking these things in a way to where you're not miserable and will actually almost excite you to continue to improve on them? So that's been great with you. I've really been enjoying that process, and I'm looking forward to now working kind of with you and seeing how we can translate some of these questionnaire items into things like the habit tracker and things, moving from there. And so that's the other thing is learning about that habit tracker is, what iCoach has is this tracker, and it's about habits. It's about those kind of things that I touched on. It's, are you getting that sleep? Are you getting your workouts in? One of my favorite things on the tracker that I make sure on mine that I have is self-love. And so whether it's, I have an array of things, but the other day I'm like, man, I'm having a weird day. So I went and walked my dog. And that I'm adding in as part of my self-love because I went outside. I know that she loves walks and it allowed me to breathe some fresh air. I took some time and I think that's something that is really missing a lot of times is we don't take those few minutes just to plug in like we do with our phones and our watches and recharge so that we are ready for the second half of our day or fully aware and present with our life when we get home that night. So that habit tracker has been amazing. And one thing that I've taken from the tracker is, I've had an all or nothing approach in the past where like, no alcohol for 30 days and no this, but what ends up happening is, you have that one day of falling off and then, you're like, oh, and then you begin to spiral. But what I like about this tracker is that you can have one little ding of, I drank this day, but then every other day before and after that, we're no alcohol. That's success. And when I see it laid out that way, to me, I'm like, heck yeah, I can make this work and I can make this happen. And that one little ding literally says nothing in the entire picture of what I've been doing. So that's been awesome to see because again, it's been taking me out of the mindset of the all or nothing and really getting me to see the daily successes. And oops, okay, I had a bad day on this one. What happened? Okay, it's because I skipped this and I didn't do this. And okay, well, let's make sure we do all of these things to keep me aligned with everything else for the day. So that's been great. So that's been really awesome to see with you. And then having Stephanie. So Stephanie, one of the other coaches, she's been diving into very like nutrition with me. So talking about, if you have clients with diabetes, talking about somebody with a thyroid issue, talking about the calculations that you would do with somebody who is this weight, this height, maybe have this activity level, or someone that has a body type that is kind of outside of the norm. So maybe you're a little bit shorter, maybe your BMI is just a little bit bigger, your body mass index is a little bit bigger. The calculations that we would use to make sure that someone is successful and not putting numbers out there that are just that are crap. So that's been great, and she's been amazing. So if anybody who knows Stephanie, she allows me to ask questions in a way to where one doesn't make me feel stupid because I don't have that piece of paper that they have. So I love that I'm in a position to learn from people that are a lot smarter than me, because if you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. And I'm not the smartest person in this room. And I love every bit of it because I just have an opportunity to absorb from everybody. So Stephanie's been great. She gives me PowerPoints and gives me information that I can read and I can see and that we go through every couple of weeks. So that's been great. And it's kind of open-ended. So I give her an assignment of like, hey, I want to learn this next. So we're talking about cardiovascular disease. Next time we have a conversation, and it allows me to confidently be able to, with research, back up the things that I know. And so I know, like, I have my general knowledge of kind of what little things are, like, what sugars do for diabetics and how to tell when a diabetic shock is coming on and how to fix that. But there's certain information that she's able to teach me now to say, this is why this happens. I know it happens. I just didn't know why. And so she's kind of starting to fill in some of the gaps of the sciencey stuff that I didn't know that I didn't know. So that's been really cool. So that's been awesome. So this whole onboarding thing has been great. And then having a weekly coach call has been really cool to be able to even just listen to the team. So I know that, my engagement is there only by proxy because I'm listening as we talk about clients every week. And so that's been amazing to hear everyone collaborate on clients and to really be a team behind the success of somebody. So if I can already see that. I know if I have a client where I'm like, hey, I'm not sure about this, let me get with my team. And then my entire team is going to be there to support me and give me some best practices from maybe experience, or, hey, I haven't dealt with that. That's awesome. Let's all learn together about how we can work with this scenario moving forward. And then Ellen's that last component of the team. And on our last call, I loved being able to connect that one little Game of Thrones with her. So she's my other nerd on my group here. So I love it because I feel like I do have a connection with every member of the team in a way to where I can ask anybody anything. And it's never going to be a situation where like, wow, she doesn't know that. Or in fact, they actually seem a little bit excited to be able to teach me, who has some sort of information, but dive into a little bit deeper that they probably couldn't do with clients, but they can do with me. So this whole onboarding experience has been amazing, and the team has been awesome and so open in a way to where I feel like I am in a position of success when, again, even if there's something that a client comes up with where I'm okay telling someone like, wow, that's awesome, and I have no idea, but let me get my whole team to let's build something out with this, and then we're going to make you that much stronger with it. So it's been awesome. It's been great.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think those two characteristics there, again, like what I look for in a coach is like, I want you to be eager to learn and want to like, continue this process. Cause as you know, as a coach, it's like, it doesn't ever end. It's like when you decide to become a coach, you better plan on continuing to learn for the rest of your life, because that's part of the process. Like the shit that I was saying 10 years ago about nutrition and what I'm saying now is completely different. And that's okay. Like, that's the part of evolving. But yeah, I completely agree. Anytime I don't know something, like I'm going to say, I don't know. And like 4 minds are way better than 1. So
amen.
That's the beauty of having like a badass team of people that we can, collectively come together and be able to serve our clients. So I love that. What are you most excited for coming up into this first month besides coaching me? I know that's going to be the best.
So exciting. I am looking forward to hopefully maybe some of the people that have been even around my bubble. So the people that have watched me come from afar, even friends in my space, that now that I have something very structured that iCoach has created, and I will confidently now I will have that confidence to be like, let's talk about food. Let's talk about what you're doing. And to see people make a decision for themselves. Because that's kind of what I did. I made a decision for myself to jump into a space of helping people where a paycheck is not guaranteed. But I know that what I do is satisfying, and I made that decision for me, and I'm going to find a way to do it for me. And so now I'm excited to see what people in my bubble right now decide to choose themselves and finally say, oh, okay, fine. Now, okay, I'll do it now that Lizzie's ready. And then kind of level up. So for me, that's what I think I'm the most excited about, is to see who hears this, to see who starts kind of coming out of the woodworks of people that have been doing what they know to do, and now they're really ready to level themselves up. So I guess that's what I'm really looking forward to, is to kind of see who decides to choose themselves and who chooses me as a coach, and then we go from there, because that's an honor. That's an honor to be chosen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the impact that you're going to create over this next year and
Yeah.
moving forward. And, obviously we have our first official team meetup, I guess. I mean, all of us are here in Dallas except Ellen. She's in New York. But yeah, that's coming up this next month. So super excited to get us all together and go take shots of tequila and stuff.
Right, exactly.
But no, I'm super honored to have you on the team, and I'm excited for the future. So thanks again for taking the time today.
Yeah, loved it.
Where can everybody find you at on the social medias so that way they can connect?
They can find me, if you're on Instagram, then you can find me at Coach Lizzie. So exactly that, CoachLizzie. Yes, IE at the end. So Coach Lizzie. And then if you're on Facebook, it's Lizzie Furlong. So Lizzie, last name Furlong, Furlong. Pretty straightforward. And everything is an open book. So just ask, add, follow, do all those things. And if you have any questions, DM me, send me a message. I'd be more than happy to answer anything you throw my way.
Awesome. All right, Lizzie. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.